Welcome to the Opinionation Podcast, where free speech, opinions, and original thought still matter in America.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I'm your host, King Daddy, and I want to apologize for not getting out a Wednesday show this week. I had a lot of things going on that kept me away from the studio, and that's part of what I want to talk about today. So to actually get started with the kind of a backstory, if you will, on all of this, I have been working up until this past year for 38 years, pretty much without a break. I mean, I've had a few occasions as a younger man where I went without a job here and there, but for the most part, for the last 38 years, I have worked and I have paid into the Social Security system money that is designed for me to either receive upon retirement or to be able to receive upon my disability. Here is the dilemma that I'm having now, and then I'll kind of backtrack a little bit and give you a little bit more history and a little bit more presence of what's going on. I am in a current situation where I have applied for the disability portion of my Medicare money because of the health issues that I have mentioned on this show several times that I've had this year. And I'm going to give you a little background on that just to kind of refresh your mind a little bit. November 26th, 2017, I was in my bedroom sitting on the edge of the bed putting on a pair of socks, dropped dead of a cardiac arrest. My wife did CPR. First responders came and brought me back with the paddles and shocked me back to life. Went to the hospital where I stayed until December the 1st and was given a quadruple bypass operation and then came back home on November the 6th. Well, after I came back home, I went through the recuperation process, you know, the lying around process, the watching a lot of Netflix process, the sitting around, building up my strength, walking back and forth to the bathroom, making the occasional lap around the house until I gained enough strength to start doing some walking. So I eventually made my way to where I was going outside with my wife. I was walking with her a little ways when she walked the dogs, moved up to where I was going to the mall with my children and walking as much as I could with respites of rest in between. So I finally got myself up to where I was able to walk approximately 3 miles per day, which, considering everything that I had gone through, that was fantastic. Even when I was supposedly healthy, which, by the way, I was not, but at the time thought I was not walking 3 miles a day. Not even close. Didn't even care, nor keep up with my steps. I didn't give a shit how far I was walking, ever. So all of a sudden, I'm in the midst of this recuperation thing, and I've got myself all jazzed up, and I'm starting to walk, and when the wife went back to work finally after a month, I went to work on the treadmill. So I started doing very well with my walking until I just didn't. I don't know what happened. Well, I didn't at the time. I know now. I did not know what happened. I know that I have always, ever since I was a young man, had some numbness in my feet, a little numbness in my fingers. And I just always thought that it was, a family neuropathy handed down trait that I had picked up. But I did not realize at the time how bad it was. So 5 months into my rehabilitation process, here I am starting to fall down, starting to wobble every time I walk. Every time I get up off the couch just to go to the restroom, my knees are vibrating. I'm shaking. I've developed a tremor in my hand. My feet are starting to hurt. My back is starting to hurt. So I didn't really think too much about it at the time, but I thought that when I went to my primary care physician for my appointment that I would mention it. So when the primary care physician did his exam, he said, "You have some sensory loss issues. I'm going to make an appointment for you to go see neurology." Well, I had worked in neurology for years, so I knew a neurologist, so I had him call the neurologist that I worked with, made me an appointment. He called me in, did his physical exam, and blah, 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 ordered what's called an EMG test or a nerve conduction. Come to find out after the nerve conduction that I have multiple conductivity blockages. I have no sensory perception from my elbows down to my fingers and from my knees down to my feet. So he decided he wanted to order some blood tests. So I went and had the blood test done, and they all came back showing that I had a hereditary disease called Charcot-Marie-Tooth. Basically what Charcot-Marie-Tooth is a form of a severe demyelinating polyneuropathy, which basically causes muscle deterioration, nerve loss, imbalance, numbness, tingling, pain, the whole shebang. So I've been fighting with that. So when June rolled around, I filled out disability papers because I was unable to go back to work doing a full-time job because I could barely walk. I mean, hell, I can barely walk now. And I'll get to that here shortly. So I filled out the disability papers and I jumped through all their hoops and answered their questions, did everything that I needed to do and sent the paperwork in. My wife was very helpful when it came to filling out this form, so to make sure that we had everything done correctly. So I hear nothing, I hear nothing, I hear nothing. So, bam, all of a sudden, last week, 9 months later. Now I want to stop here for just a moment, and I want to talk about this 9 months thing. They never ask me a question about my finances. They never ask me a question about the ability to take care of myself, which thankfully I don't have that problem. My wife takes care of me, and I have some retirement money, and I've been able to, do okay through this entire process without being unscathed to a degree. But they never ask any questions about that. But it takes them 9 months to decide on whether or not they're going to give me my disability. So then last week I received this letter in the mail from the disability people telling me that I have been denied disability because they feel. Now, keep in mind, they feel, they don't know. These motherfuckers have never looked at me. They've never sent me to a doctor. They basically looked at the questions that I filled out on that piece of paper, which because of my hand trimmer was very difficult to read. I mean, when I'm recording this show, and I normally don't admit things like this about myself, but I have to stop and get up and walk around and go to the bathroom during recording because I can't sit here for more than 5 or 10 minutes at a time because my ass and my legs go completely numb, and I'm afraid when I stand up that I'm going to fall down. So without ever taking a single look at me, without ever sending me to a disability doctor, they send me this letter that tells me that I've been denied for disability because it is their opinion that because I still have my faculties about myself and that I am educated, that I could find a job somewhere. And that may be true. I could. But I have gone on some interviews in the interim, and let me tell you, when they see me walking across the parking lot, dragging my foot, barely making it through the door, struggling to get up any steps that they may have, and then stumbling when I get out of a chair, I don't give a shit how smart I am or what my credentials are or how much education I have. I am an auto fucking no when I walk in the front door and they see me. They may not use that as a determination for my disability or not, but that is the absolute hardcore facts of living life. I am judged by the way that I walk. I am judged by the way that I carry myself physically when I walk in the front door, and their mind has been made up without ever talking to me to find out what I'm capable of doing. So you're fucked. So the disability people are telling me that I can go out and do this, but the job people are telling me otherwise because nobody wants you. But that's not where I'm going with this today. Here's where I'm going with this. So I got my denial letter. The very first thing that they do is give you 60 days to appeal. So I have filed an appeal through an attorney. So my attorney turns around and tells me when we're having our consultation that this can take up to another year before I could even come close to getting a hearing. So basically, to get a hearing, I have to be turned down again. That's 2 turn downs before you even get a hearing so that your doctors can speak on your behalf. If your doctor's notes are a little vague and don't tell the story like the disability people need the story to be taken or told, that kind of fucks you up. So you're between a rock and a hard place trying to figure out. Now, I've spent my entire life hating the disability system because I just didn't want to be one of those people that are on it. I worked in the medical field. I saw people that were on disability. I know what the stigma is in the minds of people when you ask somebody what they do and they say they're on disability. It's like, oh, disability. Yeah, well, there are people out there who have created that stigma because they get disability when there's not a fucking thing wrong with them other than they're fat or they're faking or whatever. But there are people out there, lots of people, who actually have something going on, that disability is a viable option for you to be able, and I'm going to repeat this again, to utilize your own fucking money that you paid into so you can have money to live. So my lawyer turns around and he tells me, well, there is one way that you can get moved up and get a hearing right away. And this is the part that pisses me off the most, and this is the part that drove me to want to do this show today, even though this does not affect me at all. It literally chaps my goddamn ass. Here's what he said. You could talk to your congressman and get your appeal hearing moved up if you can prove you're about to lose your home. So in other words, you've paid into this system, in my case, 38 years. You all of a sudden become disabled to where you can't do your job. I can't even get a part-time job at the Dollar General because I can't stand behind the counter and ring the cash register because I get tired. I can't stock the shelves because my hands don't work. I can't walk around the store because I get fatigued. By the way, I didn't mention this either. On top of all this neurological shit that I got going on, my ejection fraction for my heart is at 25%, which means that I also have some heart-related fatigue going on here. So I am an absolute physical falling apart wreck. I can sit here and talk to you on this microphone and even have to take breaks doing that. But the Social Security people say that I can go out and get a 40-hour-a-week fucking job and support myself. So therefore, I do not qualify for disability. But I could get a hearing if I could prove I were about to lose my home. Thank goodness that I am not about to lose my home, that my wife and I are financially secure enough that we have a nice home and that everything's going well. But I would love to have my Social Security money that I have paid into. I don't need to wait till I'm 62 to draw my Medicare. I can draw it now. I'm perfectly content with drawing it now. I mean, my wife works and she has a really good job, but as a man, I would like to have my own money. Besides the fact that I have my retirement money, I would like to have my own money. I would like to be able to contribute to the household more than what I'm able to contribute to the household now. But the disability people tell me that I am not disabled. Yet when I go out to find a job, they look at me like I have the fucking plague. I'm not just disabled, I have the plague. So I can't get a job, I can't do anything. I went outside today and attempted to scoop dog shit over the fence so that my dogs could go to the bathroom, and I got worn out from scooping a couple of piles of dog shit and had to come in the house and sit on the couch and rest. But the Social Security people have told me that I don't qualify for disability. And the Social Security people are telling thousands, if not millions of people in the United States of America who have worked their goddamn ass off, doing their job, paying their dues, biding their time, doing physical labor sometimes, who become sick and disabled, and they are going to determine whether or not you can have back your own money. And then you can only get a hearing if you're about to lose your home. What a fucking crock of shit. I have no idea how disability and Social Security got lumped into the so-called giveaway programs or welfare type programs. This is not a giveaway program or welfare. This is my money. It was taken out of my paycheck every single week for 38 years. And I need my money. I want my money. And some bureaucrat sitting in an office with a rubber stamper with the word no on it has determined by looking at a piece of fucking paper that I do not qualify. That thousands of Americans do not qualify. But those same bureaucrats are sitting in their office stamping that stamp on that piece of paper, giving disability to people who I see roaming around all over the place doing whatever the hell they want to. I know a man right now, and I'm not going to mention any names because I wouldn't do that, not to mention I don't want to get my ass sued, but this motherfucker has been on disability for, 20 years? And I see him out riding his motorcycle. I had to sell my motorcycle because I'm not able to ride it anymore because I can't feel my feet touch the ground. And I love to ride. So I see this motherfucker out riding his motorcycle, riding around in his pickup truck, pulling his boat to the lake. and he is on disability. How did he get disability when I can't get disability? When thousands and thousands and thousands of Americans can't get disability? When we have veterans who have served this country, and I guess the only way that they can get disability is if, one, the war fucks their brain up so bad that they can't function, or two, they have something blown off their body. Because other than that, they're going to have a difficult time too. Because our government, as I have mentioned in countless podcasts in the past, does not give a flying fuck about you or anything that you do or anything that you care for, because the government is all about sitting in Congress, sitting on the Senate, and patting their fucking pockets and giving to special interest groups, while the American people are told that you can't even have your own goddamn money. You can't tell me that there's not something desperately wrong with that. If there's anybody out there who can come up with a reason why that is necessary, there's got to be a stronger, and I don't even like to use this word because they're throwing it out for all this border shit, but there's got to be a stronger vetting process for who gets disability. They have to have more than some bureaucratic stupid fucker sitting in an office rubber stamping no on your application because he don't like the way the doctor worded his notes, because he could send you to a disability doctor and have you checked out by somebody that they trust that could give them a pertinent answer as to whether or not you get disability or not. But instead, they're sitting in their office, they're stamping the paper no, they're not answering your phone when you call them, and if you do get somebody on the phone, they're getting you off the phone faster than they answered it, because they don't want to talk to you because they can't answer real questions other than the word no. So this whole thing has got me chapped in my ass going through this process. And I'm not even mad for me. I'm not. People say, well, Charles, you've got to be pissed off because they told you no. I'm not. My wife and I are doing fine. We go day by day doing the best that we can, making things work. I get around the best I can. Thank goodness I'm still able to drive and go places and do things. I mean, I have to hang on when I work around the kitchen, I have to hang on to the counters. Thank goodness that when we had this house done, that we made it in such a fashion where I have a walk-in shower, and there's only one dead spot in this entire house where I don't have anything to hang on to when I walk, and that is from the corner of the bar in the kitchen to the edge of the hallway that I have to walk through, which is approximately 11 feet, that I have nothing to hang on to, and I'm good for 11 feet. But what pisses me off and who I am mad for are the American citizens out there who have worked their ass off, sweating and toiling on a job in this country, and they can't get their money, and they can't even get a hearing unless they can prove they're going to lose their home. Absolutely frightening and appalling that our government would treat us this way. There are so many great people in this country who have been plagued by sickness. There are so many great people in this country who have been plagued by heart disease, cancer. And I'm not going to lie to you, some of it we did to ourselves. I did the heart disease to myself. And I realized that. But I did not do the Charcot-Marie tooth to myself. I did not do the nerve conductivity problem to myself. It just happened. And now I can barely walk. My wife and I go to the movies, and I have to sit on the ground row because I can't walk up the steps to the top row anymore because I just don't have it in me to do it. There are people out there who have worked hard for their benefits, and the United States of America would rather give benefits to people who don't need them or don't deserve them until you know. This is King Daddy for the Opinionation Podcast. Hoping you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. See you next week.